Hey everyone, my name is Franzi and this is the first video in a three-part screencast on how to create a full browser Flash website. First of all, we'll check the design that I've prepared, starting with loading screen. So this is graphical representation of the loading progress for our site. We'll get then to the welcome screen with the text on the left and image on the right. Both will reposition. The text on the left will also scale to accommodate for repositioning of the image on the right. We have the navigation bar at the bottom that will stretch from the left to the right, and will bring all of those buttons up with a for loop. So with a little modification, you'll be able to create a system where you can specify how many and what the names should be on those buttons. As for the scaling, same goes for the header. So it will also scale from the left to the right side of our player and our browser. Next, we have featured work. We'll have featured work panels with images, title, date, category, and the description at the bottom. All of that information will be taken out of an XML file. The path to the image on the server will be stored in the XML file. We'll load that data and input it into these panels. If you click on any of these, you'll get to a single project panel. This one will hold the project title, and again, all of that data will be taken out of the XML, so you'll be able to easily change the content, the path to the image, and you will also allow your client for easier administration of his site. The last thing that we have here is the news section, and over here you'll have some basic news. Data in the actual news will be styled with HTML, so you'll be able to insert images and create some basic styles for the text. All of this again will be in the XML file loaded into our Flash website, so you can edit, delete, or create new entries quite easy. The contact us will be just a form where the user will be able to input his email, name, and a question or some kind of an inquiry, and then submit that. Will create a system that will, through PHP, send an email with that content to either you or the client that you're creating the website for. So this is, as for the design, this is it. Now we'll start actually with creating the positioning system for our website. First of all, we'll check it in action in this preview that I've prepared, and here we go. So this is how it'll actually look. Everything will scale or reposition itself. Will have a minimum width, so the fact that it's breaking right now, that won't happen, because we'll limit the width of our website to something around 980 or 1000, and also of course we'll limit the height, right? So you can't really squeeze it infinitely. In any case, it would break our design. But we have the ability to stretch our design to the width and height of this new widescreen larger displays, which is a great thing to be able to do. And also, you know, we'll add some interactivity and make our site as neat as possible. Cool. So let's start with the layout and positioning. First of all, we have an object on the stage. This is a movie clip with the instance name of item. So this is how we'll access it through ActionScript, right? We'll access it through item instance name. By default, if we run that, you'll see that it's scaling. So the stage is actually scaling, but you'll be able to see that much better inside of the external player, which actually does that correctly. So this is the scaling that I was talking about. The stage is scaling by default, and this is the kind of behavior we don't want in our website. So we want basically all the scaling or repositioning and all that to be specifically programmed for a specific item at a specific time, right? So the way to do that is to add these two lines. The stage scale mode equals stage scale mode dot no scale. This prevents the stage from scaling, and the stage align equals stage align dot top left actually aligns it to the top left. And with that in place, you'll see that the actual object that we have on the stage is staying still, and this is what we want. if we want it to stick to the bottom or the right or scale or whatever, we want to program that specifically for this object, not just have the whole stage scale by default. And how do we do that? We need event listeners. So the first one that I'll add is resize. So this one will listen to when the stage resizes, and it will call a function called onStage resize. So function onStage resize evt event. This is going to be called when we resize our stage. And just to test it, let's trace something, and let's trace stage.stage width. This is the width property of the stage object. And okay, here we go. So you can see we get the width of our player, of our stage output into the output panel. Cool. And this is the property, this is the information that we need to actually position everything in our browser. This and stage height, obviously. And let's just try and play with it a bit. So we have the object on the stage, and it's called item. And its instance name is item. And item.x equals stage.stage stage width. And let's do divided by 2, which means that the x value of our item, the x property of our item, will actually equal the center of our browser, of our player, of our stage whenever we resize. So right now it's still where I put it, but when I resize, it'll snap to the center. And because it has a registration point at the top left, the center is actually over here. To fix that problem, because we do want it to be, centered, we can subtract the half of our item. So item.width divided by 2. Now we take the x of our item and we subtract the stage.stage width divided by 2 by the half of it, which means that we should get it directly into the middle of our player, and that's better. So whatever you want centered, and if it has the registration point at the top left, then you have to take it back by half of its width, which is actually quite obvious once you think of it. The scaling thing is the next thing we're going to do. So this is item.scale x equals, and this time we'll use the width of our stage, and we'll divide it by 980, which is the specified width for our application, for our website. This means that by default, when we run the application, because the width of our player, the width of our website is 980, and it's divided by 980, the scale x will be 1, which actually means 100%, which means that it'll stay exactly as is, right? As soon as we start scaling, you see that the object starts scaling as well. So if we had it stretch from the left to the right side of our player, that'll actually create the kind of effect where our object would constantly be scaled from the left to the right, which is awesome because we'll use the same kind of functionality to create our navigation and our header. Okay, so now that we have the scaling fixed, let's also try and play with the y value of our item object on the stage. In this case, we'll read the height, so stage.stage height. And if we do just that and run, of course I have to resize first, you'll see that it jumps right at the bottom. Right now it's somewhere around here because the registration point again is at the top left. And if we move it to the bottom, what we get is this. So again we have to subtract by the height of our item. So minus item.height, and we'll get it right where we want it. Okay, to make the whole experience smoother, we'll also add the enter frame event listener. So add event listener event, and then enter frame on frame, and of course we need to create a function that event listener will call, and that's the on frame evt event void and copy and paste everything into it. Let's export, and now we'll test our movie in the external Flash player, which is more accurate. And basically, if you test it in here, you see what you get inside of the browser. This internal player actually doesn't really work that well, so I would suggest that you try it as much as you can in the external player, and that's what we'll do also. And now you can see that we have the kind of behavior that we want, right? So this is the system, this is the code that we'll be using to position pretty much everything on our stage. And now that we have it, we can actually go and start building our navigation system and later position it with this system.